Good evening and welcome to the first clinical meeting on the complications of third stage of labor. We all know third stage of labor starts from delivery of the baby and ends with delivery of placenta and membranes. During this period, we may encounter life-threatening complications. To discuss this and its advanced management, we are gathered here. Since this is our first clinical meeting on Zoom platform, please excuse us if we have any technical problems. All the participants are requested to put their questions in the chat box or they can raise hand during the discussion session. Now I request our President, Dr. Aboli ma'am, to say few words.
Welcome all my teachers, seniors and colleagues. I can see many of our senior teachers and regards to all of them. Today we have our first clinical meeting of the year and I am glad to see many attendees here. Thanks to Dr. Kiran Sarda for the Ready DigiShield platform. Thanks to Mr. Piyush Kale for hosting this session from DigiShield. In obstetrics, every obstetrician has to face the problem of PPH sometime or the other. But when complications come unexpectedly, one has to be highly alert. And here, the standard protocols are much useful to us. But nowadays, there are new modalities of management which many of us are practicing. And we have with us our younger generation obstetricians to share their experiences. Today, we have 2 case presentations on PPH and 2 video presentations. We also have with us our teacher, Sardesai Madam. She needs no introduction. She is our teacher, mentor and backbone of our society. She is going to give us some pearls of wisdom. We also have with us Dr. Kumtekar sir, Deshmukh madam, Dr. Gurram sir, Dr. Dabde sir, and they will be here with us for their expert opinions. I hope our clinical meeting becomes more helpful to our society. With the advantages of Zoom platforms, I expect many of our obstetric and gynec members to present as many cases as possible throughout the year. Thank you. And to start the session, I hand over the screen to Dr. Archana Shaha. Archana.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Dr. Swati to present the first case, the case of PPH managed with Bakri balloon tamponade. Dr. Swati, she is a DGO resident working at Ashwini Sahkari Rugnalaya. Over to you, Swati.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, respected teachers and my dear friends. Myself, Swati, would like to present a case of moderate atonic PPH. A 31-year-old primigravida registered in a private hospital was admitted for post-dated pregnancy for induction on 12th of October 2020 at 8 p.m. Her obstetric history, she is married since 1 year. A 31-year-old primigravida registered in a private hospital was admitted for post-dated pregnancy for induction on 12th of October at 8 p.m. In obstetric history, she is married since 1 year, primigravida, and in menstrual history, her menses were regular. Her LMP was 3rd of January 2020 and her expected date of delivery is on 10th October 2020. In past history, there is no history of major illness in the past and also in the family. In personal history, her sleep, diet, bowel, bladder were normal. Patient was averagely built and nourished and her vitals were she was afebrile, pulse rate 72, BP 110/70 millimeters of mercury. There was no pallor, icterus cyanosis, clubbing lymphadenopathy. In systemic examination, her cardiovascular system was normal. S1, S2 were heard, no murmurs. And her central nervous system was also normal. And her respiratory system examination was also normal. Bilateral air entry equal in both lungs and no added sounds. And on per-abdomen examination, the uterus was full term and it is LOA position and head was fixed and FHS was regular in left spino-umbilical line 140 regular. And in pervaginal examination, cervix was 1 finger, minimally effaced, station -1, membranes present, vertex presentation and pelvis adequate. Her investigations were CBC HB 10.8, total count 7,600, platelet 1,80,000. Urine was normal, blood group was B positive, TSH was 1.2, HIV HbSAg negative, admission test NST was reactive. On 13th of October 2020, patient was induced with Dinopros gel at 4 a.m. After 4 centimeters dilatation, labor was augmented by ARM and 1 unit Pitocin rib. She progressed well and delivered a female baby of weight 3.1 kg at 12:20 p.m. It was a full-term normal delivery and baby cried immediately after birth. Active management of third stage of labor was done with Pitocin rib 20 units in 1 pint of RL. And after placenta was delivered, at 12:45 p.m. episiotomy was also sutured and injection Mithergin 1 ampule IV was given. And at 1 p.m. fresh bleeding per vaginally was seen. Her pulse rate and BP were normal and her per abdomen uterus was well retracted and fundus was marked. Injection Prostadin 1 ampule IM was given. At 1:15, around 1:15 to 1:30 p.m., oozing was still present, but on perspeculum examination, cervix was intact and there was no vaginal tear and no oozing from the episiotomy wound. Ultrasound was done, but there was no retained products. So cervix was packed with a surgical mop and a second IV line with pause 1 gram drip was started and 2 PCV were arranged. At 1:40 p.m., there was still fresh bleeding seen despite of packing, and her pulse rate rose to 120 per minute, and BP was normal, 110/70. And relatives were explained about PPH, and a written consent for exploration under general anesthesia was taken. Anesthetist was called, and patient shifted to OT. Second obstetrician was called. And at around 1:45 to 2 p.m., general anesthesia was given and previous packs were removed. Around 400 to 500 ml of blood was seen collected in the vagina. And the exact site of bleeding could not be located on per speculum examination. Her pulse kept on rising to 130 beats per minute and BP started falling to 100 by 60 millimeters of mercury. So injection Prostadin 250 micrograms intramyometrial was given and cervix was packed with a surgical mop. Patient shifted to tertiary care center and OT staff at Ashwini Hospital were informed and everything in OT, instruments, everything were kept ready. At Ashwini at 2:30 p.m., when she came to Ashwini, her pulse rate rose up to 142 beats per minute and her blood pressure was 100 by 60 millimeters of mercury and pallor was present. Relatives were informed and consent was taken for exploration and SOS Bakri balloon and uterine artery hysterectomy. And patient was directly shifted to OT and a fresh CBC and PT-INR were sent. And GA was given in lithotomy position, surgical mop was removed. Fortunately, there was only mild bleeding. Bakri balloon insertion was done under ultrasound guidance and 150 to 200 cc saline infiltration was done. It was checked whether balloon was placed properly in the uterine cavity. Though there was only mild bleeding, the estimated blood loss was around 1.2 to 1.5 liter. So to prevent further hemodynamic deterioration of the patient, Bakri balloon insertion was done. Vaginal packing was done with one surgical mop and patient shifted to ICU at 3:30 p.m. Her vitals while shifting were pulse rate 102 beats per minute and BP 110/60 millimeters of mercury and she started settling. And in ICU for the next 24 hours, and her fresh CBC report has come. Her HB was 6.6, total count 17,800 and platelets 1,60,000. So 2 PCV transfusion were given and a higher antibiotic of Tazar 4.5 grams 8 hourly and Metro 8 hourly were given. Her vitals, output, PV bleeding were monitored which were normal. So Bakri balloon was removed in OT after 24 hours and there was no active PV bleeding. Her CBC was repeated after 24 hours, which was hemoglobin 9.6 and total count 10,500 and platelets 1,52,000. So patient was shifted from ICU to ward and she was discharged after 48 hours of Bakri balloon removal. This is the image of Bakri balloon. It consists of a balloon which is made up of silicone and it is of measurements 55 millimeters into 80 millimeters and it has a drainage port and an inflation port. And this is the video. Here we can see that the surgeon is trying to insert Bakri balloon into the uterine cavity. He has gone beyond the internal os, and another obstetrician is doing ultrasound and checking whether the Bakri balloon has got into right place. And he's adjusting the position of the Bakri balloon using a sponge holder. And after adjusting the correct position of the Bakri balloon, and after confirming it on ultrasound, he starts inflating it slowly. And around 150 to 200 cc of normal saline has been infiltrated. The capacity of Bakri balloon in maximum is 500 ml. So it was again checked under ultrasound. So now they are packing vagina with one surgical mop, and patient was shifted to ICU. So that is how we have managed a case of PPH. So let's call it a day. The most important step in the management of PPH is to anticipate PPH, and every labor room must be equipped with PPH trolley or a drum, which consists of extra instruments and surgical mops, drugs, extra IV lines, catheters, Bakri balloon. All equipment must be available in every labor room, and we have to be very vigilant in fourth stage of labor. WHO 2018 recent guidelines says after every the labor patient after delivery has to be monitored for 2 hours every 15 minutes, and the tone of the uterus has to be monitored to prevent PPH. And a timely second IV line is very important, because after hemodynamic deterioration, it is very difficult to secure an IV line. And it is very important to keep blood components ready at slightest PPH, or if we have a doubt that the patient is going to bleed. And calling for help is very, very important. This is a teamwork. Management of PPH is itself a teamwork, and obstetrician should act like a leader to lead the team and save the life of the woman. And timely decision is the key. The right decision, whether to shift the patient or to take the patient to OT at the right time, is very important and life-saving for the patient. So the last image, this I have, can anybody guess who the lady is?
Mumtaz. She died because of PPH.
Yes, ma'am, you are absolutely correct. She is Mumtaz, Shah Jahan's wife. She died while giving birth to her 14th child at the age of 38 because of atonic PPH, and in the memory of her, Taj Mahal has been built. So, so we should try to avoid deaths of women or women like Mumtaz. No more Taj Mahals. And thank you.
Thank you, Sati, for the wonderful presentation. And as you rightly said, timely decision and teamwork is the key in management of such cases. I always remember the words of Sardesai Madam, don't miss that golden hour. And that is very true in management of PPH. Now the case is open for discussion. I invite the experts and senior members of society to please say few words or their views, or anybody can ask the question.
Swati, you said active management of third stage. How it was done? What was that?
Can't hear you, madam. You have to Piyush, can you unmute Sardesai, madam?
She is.
Ma'am, I'm
Unmute
already...
Sardesai, madam.
Yes.
Okay. Swati, you said
Ma'am.
Third.
Yes, ma'am.
Active management of third stage of labor. What do you mean by that?
Active management of third stage of labor, ma'am. Recent.
Sadhna, can you enlighten us? Can you enlighten us? What was exactly done?
Dr. Suman ma'am, can you just come a bit closer to the mobile so that we'll be able to hear you clearly?
Oh, can you hear me?
No, a bit louder, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
What was active management of third stage? That's what I want to know. Probably Sadhana, madam.
Uh,
Can you hear me?
Madam,
Ma'am, I
are
can't
you,
hear you, ma'am.
madam, are you asking the question? What is the active management of third stage of labor? Please explain.
This case. What active
Ma'am,
management?
WHO revised active.
We don't want what WHO says. What was the active management in this case?
Call in using device audio filter.
Madam wants to ask, I think, whether in this patient active management of the stage of labor was done.
Yes, ma'am. We have started her with uterotonic oxytocin 20 units immediately after the birth of the baby. We have given active management, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have done delayed cord clamping, and we have done controlled cord traction,
So that doesn't.
and we have monitored for throughout after 2 hours after delivery. We have monitored her after delivery, ma'am.
Then what? Why the patient had bleeding? Can you enlighten us? Why patient had bleeding?
Ma'am, it can be due to atony of the uterus that she had PPH, ma'am.
Yes, that is obvious. But probably why she must have had this. Anyway. Okay.
Atonic uterus, ma'am.
Hello.
Madam, hello.
Hello.
Madam,
Any
is it-
questions, please?
Hello, madam, you are not audible. Sardesai madam is not audible.
सरदेसाई मॅडम तुमच्या मॅडम हेडफोन्स आहेत का? हॅलो मॅडम तुमची स्क्रीन पण नाही दिसत आहे.
Piyush Dabde sir, he wants to say something. Can you unmute him?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Dabde, he wants to say something. He has raised the hand.
Yes, I have already allowed him.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Probably Madam wanted to ask Swati as to how the third stage was managed in this case, and why do you think she had a tonic postpartum hemorrhage?
Yeah.
Swati,
Sir. Yes, sir.
are you with me? Yeah.
Yes,
Can
yes,
you-
yes, sir.
Can you tell me the reason why do you think this patient had a tonic postpartum hemorrhage?
Sir, it might be because it was an induction which we have done for her labor. Because it was a post-dated pregnancy. We have done induction.
Rather than post-datism, it was induction of labor, and all
Induction-
those induced labors are prone for postpartum hemorrhage.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's true. And how do you decide as to whether you would infiltrate the Bakri balloon with 150 ml or 200 ml? How do you decide that if the capacity is 500 ml?
Sir, the fundal height, we have marked the fundal height, na sir. So it should
Yeah.
not go beyond the fundus.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. On ultrasound guidance, you had inserted the Bakri balloon in the uterine
Sir,
cavity.
the wall of the Bakri balloon has to act as a tamponade to the endometrial wall. As it starts touching it, we will stop infiltrating, sir.
Okay, it's not only touching, you feel the uterus per abdominally, and you'll find that the uterus is becoming more and more firm. That's
Yes,
also
yes.
an additional thing. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes,
nice
sir.
presentation that was. And
Yes, sir.
good use of Bakri balloon. You avoided any surgical interventions.
Yes,
no
sir.
laparotomies, nothing. Good.
Yes, sir.
And how many transfusions were given to this patient?
Sir, 2 PCV transfusion were given, sir.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add that whenever we have a patient with bleeding, it is not only
Yes, sir.
the PCVs, but along with that, 1:1 ratio of FFP also should be transfused.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but anyway, your patient did well the next day. That was very good.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
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 Can I talk, madam?
Yeah, Gurram sir, na? Please, sir.
The Bude sir, when we was talking, फोन असला काय नसला काय इथपर्यंत आवाज येत होता त्यांचा. काय आणि another thing regarding this Bakri balloon, the cost of the Bakri balloon is more, but there now comes a new LAV, ELLAVI, LAV, and that is similar to Bakri balloon, and the cost is around 22,400, and we have used one LAV in 3 patients. After finishing one patient, we have kept it there, and after sterilization, again used for 3 patients, and that works well on the same principle. So after this panel discussion is over, I will send that LAV video on the our SOC social group. That works very well.
That will be great, sir.
Yes.
Anybody else want to comment on this? So thank you, Swati, for the wonderful presentation. And I request Piyush to present the e-memento. Please.
Yes, ma'am.
Piyush?
I feel this is a golden opportunity for me, ma'am.
So
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Swati, please accept this as a token of appreciation. And I assure not only you, but all the speakers that the memento will reach and will be delivered to your place once the lockdown is over. So we'll
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
We'll move on to our next case. That is the post-cesarean atonic PPH surgical management. I request Dr. Supriya Birazdar to please present this case. We all know Dr. Supriya is a very vibrant and dynamic gynecologist working as gynecologist and fertility specialist in Birazdar Hospital and Navjeevan Fertility Center. Supriya, you can start now, please.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. At the outset, let me thank Abuli ma'am and her team for giving me this opportunity. I'll just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm presenting a case of post-cesarean atonic PPH. Our case, a 33 years old primary gravida with IVF twin pregnancy, she was booked with us at 28 weeks of gestation. Till then, her antenatal period was uneventful. With her regular checkups, she showed increasing edema and increasing blood pressure since her first visit. She had complaints of breathlessness at 32 weeks of gestation. A physician was involved. Echo done was normal. There was a good control of blood pressure eventually with labetalol. But after 3 weeks, again there was an increasing blood pressure. At 35 weeks of gestation, she was posted for elective LSCS with blood and blood components kept ready, and the whole team with 2 obstetricians, anesthetist, pediatrician, and OT staff was well informed. On the operative day, fresh CBC and PT-INR was done in the morning. She was posted as the first case in the OT list that afternoon with bilateral wide bore cannulas with preoperative antibiotic and tranexamic acid were given to the patient, and the patient was shifted to the OT. Intraoperative spiral anesthesia was followed by a routine lower segment cesarean section. First baby delivered by vertex, second by breech. Placenta was removed and sac. But due to wide surface of the placenta in a twin pregnancy, uterine cavity was checked again, and to my surprise, there was a retained cotyledon found.
Priya's screen is not sharing. Can anyone see? Everyone see?
Yeah, it is seen. It is seen.
It is seen, madam.
Okay.
It is seen, madam. Only there is some voice disturbance.
Okay. Continue, Supriya.
We can't hear
Sorry
Supriya.
for the disturbance.
Okay. And along with the uterine massage, oxytocin and empirically prostaglandin was given. But still, the uterine atony continued. After assessing the blood loss, blood and blood components were ordered. Prostaglandin was repeated intramyometric. Still, there was segment filling, and hence multiple interrupted horizontal compression sutures were taken. The bleeding was much under control. The blood was clotting. The color of the blood was also good, but still we went for bilateral uterine artery ligation to be safe. After some time, the bleeding was perfectly under control. The uterus was completely contracted. A nursing staff was asked to do a vaginal swabbing just to check whether there is any lower segment loss. After confirming that the loss was under control, hemostasis was rechecked and abdomen closed. On the first post-operative day, her CBC was 5.7 grams. So that much blood she had lost. 3 PCVs were transfused. Injection calcium gluconate was given. Day 3 CBC showed hemoglobin of 8.5 grams. Wound checked. Lochia was healthy and she was discharged on day 6. So what were the saviors in our case? Anticipation, a good teamwork and practice drills, proper estimation of the blood loss, a protocol-based use of uterotonics, accurate timing of surgical intervention and knowing where to stop, and a good post-operative care. Every mother counts and any delivery can land up in PPH, but expect or anticipate a PPH in case of grand multiparity, over-distended uterus, as in this, so was in our case, previous PPH, APH, fibroids, general malnutrition, third stage of precipitate labor, general anesthesia, and obesity. A good team is absolutely necessary for management of PPH. Apart from doctors, anesthetists, pediatrician, a good OT team and nursing staff is must. The OT team should regularly check the oxygen supply, OT medicines, extra sutures, instruments. Now I've joined Krishnamai team since past 4 years, but at any time of the day, whenever I'll uproll my eyes, the 2 boxes of the Bakri balloon, the places never change. The places of the blood sets is perfectly there. Every nursing staff knows where are the medicines kept, whether 2 bottles of blood are there in the refrigerator or no. And they have been extremely well taught how to communicate with the lab and how to communicate with a blood bank. The most crucial time is the blood loss estimation. Never underestimate the blood loss. So do we need to really pit-pat the ACS class of hemorrhage? No, because we don't want our patient to land up in class 3 or class 4 hemorrhage. The moment the patient has tachycardia, the systolic BP reaches 90 millimeters of mercury, please start resuscitative measures immediately. We all know, start oxygen, secure an airway, 2 IV lines, collect 20 ml of blood for investigations, start infusing 3.5 liters of crystalloids. Normal saline being the choice of crystalloid, but in case if NS is not available, start with RL, no dextrose at all, catheterize and keep the patient warm. One of the sisters will collect the blood and send the blood for investigations. Even if the blood goes to the lab, we should never forget the clot observation test which we have learned during our PG times. How it is to be done? Collect a 5 ml of blood in plain test tube and keep it aside. Then the blood will clot in 8 to 10 minutes and the clot will remain intact. If the serum fibrinogen level is less than 150 milligrams per DL, blood will not clot and it will undergo partial or complete dissolution in 30 to 60 minutes. Basically, after you see the blood clotting, it increases your morale and you become more confident. Because any DIC profile will at least need 45 minutes for you to reach. Depending on the lab reports, do the correction as required. Like if the hemoglobin is less than 8 gram %, transfuse a PCV. If more than 1.5 times, transfuse FFP. If serum fibrinogen is less than 100 mg/cent, transfuse cryo, and if platelets are less than 50,000, arrange for RDP and SDP. Repeat uterotonics if required. That is oxytocin, 10 international units in 500 ml of saline at the rate of 60 drops per minute, or repeat methergin after 30 minutes, 0.2 milligrams IM, or carboprus, PGF2 alpha, 250 micrograms intramyometrically, and as FIGO recommended, 1000 micrograms misoprostol per rectally. Even if these all things do not stop the hemorrhage, you please move quickly to the surgical steps because time is critical in PPH. The most important and very quickly done will be the uterine compression sutures. That is, a stitch in time always saves 9. What are uterine compression sutures? They represent a significant advance in obstetric care. They function similar as a brace to facilitate the uterine contraction and retractions. They significantly reduce the number of hysterectomies. They are applied externally to the body of the uterus and in various patterns. Which suture material to use? We generally use chromic catgut or number 1 Vicryl is also okay because we just want the suture material to stay for a very less time. And must know is every obstetrician must be proficient with the placement of at least one type of uterine compression sutures. There are many types of uterine compression sutures. Many authors have described many uterine compression sutures. The one which we did was multiple horizontal uterine compression sutures, and they are put in the anterior uterine wall. And when you tie them, often the blood, 80 to 90% times the hemorrhage is controlled. Why we chose them? Because we are very well versed with it. It is done very quickly, it takes very less time, and it immediately shows that the blood loss is very minimal. You make your OT assistant to oppose the anterior and posterior uterine walls, then and there you will come to know that the uterine compression sutures are going to work. The other sutures can be Bilek suture, Heyman sutures, toe sutures, whichever compression sutures you are well versed with, you know how to put it. The OT assistant is well versed. Start putting on those sutures because they will reduce the blood loss. Even if after uterine compression sutures, the bleeding continues, in our case, we went ahead with uterine artery ligation, that is an all-year stitch. We all know that you palpate the uterine at the junction of where the uterus meets the cervix. This is the cesarean incision. 2 centimeters below this incision, you straighten the needle and go through and through to the myometrium, then loop it around and come back from an avascular space in the broad ligament and tie it anteriorly. If required, you can do on bilateral. Most of the times, 80 to 90%, the bleeding will come under control. In case, if it does not work, you go for utero-ovarian artery ligation. That is done at the cornu, just below the fallopian tube, where the ovarian ligament just attaches to the uterus. And even if after utero-ovarian artery ligation, it does not stop, then you please ask your anesthetist to call in for seniors because maybe you might need an internal iliac ligation or peripartum hysterectomy. Uterine artery embolization I've not discussed here because we don't have the facilities. So to end, if you face the PPH, stay calm, call for help, always have a teamwork, make quick decisions, always remember your sutures, act fast. And once the case settles, you applaud your team, rectify your mistakes, do practice drills. We can never practice the sutures on an ongoing PPH case. Our mind, our hands have to be trained beforehand. Always donate blood and motivate blood donation. Because unless and until we help the blood banks, they can't help us. So in PPH, please hurry. And in the end, in this pandemic, I would just like to say that we all are not in the same boat, but we definitely are in the same storm. So just be kind, be empathetic, and help each other to stay above water. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriya, for this excellent presentation. Time is critical in PPH, as you said, and the obstetrician should be very much disciplined and protocolized. That is very true. Now, we will have discussion on this.
Internal iliac ligation was done or uterine sutures were taken? Transverse were. Hello, can you hear me?
No, madam, your
Hello,
voice
yes,
is very low.
Ma'am, if you have kept hand on the sound button or mic, please remove it and speak a bit louder.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
madam.
ma'am.
Huh? No?
Yes, ma'am.
You can hear me well?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Supriya, somehow I missed the few seconds. It was internal, it was uterine artery ligation and transverse sutures were taken, no? On the
Yeah, initially we started the lower segment was filling. So transverse horizontal sutures were put in the lower segment and they were tied. The bleeding had come under control, so we could peacefully ligate the uterines.
But because you had taken the sutures, did you have any difficulty in approaching the uterine because the sutures are there only, no?
No, ma'am. There was no, because at near the edges of the uterine incision, we had not gone that far. Actually, we missed taking the photograph of this uterus, but it was.
Can I contribute something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I always, even when I have given lectures on internal ligation, I always and I will always encourage the juniors particularly to get proficient with internal ligation. And believe me, the fastest route to reach internal iliac is extraperitoneal.
Yes.
Not believe me, what I am supposed to do if the abdomen is opened, peritoneum is open, how am I expected to reach internal iliac extraperitoneally? Believe me, the obliterated umbilical arteries arise or the end part of the internal iliac. Anatomy, obliterated umbilical arteries arise from internal iliac. And if you leave aside the open abdomen, you find out the obliterated umbilical arteries laterally and downwards. Do some extraperitoneal dissection, which is blind dissection, which is a bloodless dissection. And the moment you keep on tracing the obliterated internal you reach the internal iliac artery. This probably is the fastest to reach internal iliac. In future, I will try to prepare a video of it and try to present in front of our audience. But believe me, after every cesarean section, transverse cesarean section, and you happen to cut obliterated iliac umbilical every time. Sometimes it doesn't allow the spread of the peritoneum, and you have to cut it with sharp dissection, cut the obliterated umbilical arteries. Now, when you next time you do it, trace it downwards and laterally. You will find the internal iliac very easily, and it's a very bloodless approach. Try it sometime. I will try to prepare a video of it and present in front of you sometime.
Thank you, sir. We are waiting for your video. Actually, while doing extraperitoneal cesarean section, I also witnessed the same thing, that it is very easy to approach the internal iliac artery for ligation.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Hello.
Hello. Sir, please.
Actually, Dr. Girish Kumtekar just said, Dr. Deepak Desai, when he was there at Solapur, he showed how to ligate this internal iliac extraperitoneally. I will post video after this session. But for Billinch thing or breast sutures, here you have, Dr. Priya madam, you have taken the sutures transversely, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there is only, if you take transversely, keep it only transversely. Don't take vertically, because if you take vertically and transversely, then there will be a lot of problem. Here we came across one patient operated at some other place. Billing suture was done. On fourth day, severe pain in abdomen. We passed the laparoscope and saw that the uterus was completely gangrenous. Shankarpadi sarke त्यांनी हे घेतले होते sutures transversely and vertically. So for juniors, if you want to take Billing sutures or any breast sutures, take only one type, either vertical, either transverse, not both. That is the only one message I want to give.
Anybody else want to comment on this? Regarding the uterine suture, I just listened one hysteroscopic conference, and there it was mentioned that because of this hemostatic sutures, there are 30% chance that the patient will will have scanty menses in her subsequent menstrual cycles. So this is quite a high incidence, I think. So we should be very meticulous while taking the sutures. What Gurram sir suggested. Thank you, Supriya, for this excellent presentation. I request Chirag to present the e-memento. Supriya, please accept this e-memento as a token of appreciation. Now, after having this wonderful case discussion, we move on to our next session of video presentation. So the first video will be on Bakri balloon tamponade presented by Dr. Sandhya. Dr. Sandhya is working as assistant professor in Dr. VM GMC Medical College, Solapur. Dr. Sandhya?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
Hello,
start your presentation.
Good evening to all. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Good evening to all. I will be presenting my few slides on Bakri balloon tamponade today. I'll share my screen. Hello, ma'am. My slides are viewable.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. We can see your slides.
I'll be talking on Bakri balloon tamponade. I'm Dr. Sandhya Ashok Srigadi. Bakri balloon is a minimally invasive conservative management of postpartum hemorrhage. It is a second-line treatment of postpartum hemorrhage when the initial trials of the uterotonic drugs and the bimanual compression of the uterus have failed to control the bleeding. It is a readily available, effective, easily administered and safe procedure. It's a device invented by Dr. Younes N. Bakri. It is a 54 centimeter long 24 French made up of silicone with a maximum capacity of 500 ml. This is the image of Bakri balloon with the two ports, drainage port and the inflation port with the shaft and the balloon. This image shows the how the balloon is held inside the uterine cavity. It conforms the uterine shape, uterine cavity shape. You can see the improper placement of the balloon also. The balloon in whole should be inside the uterine cavity. The ACOG 2006 practice bulletin states that when uterotonics fail to cause sustained uterine contractions and satisfactory control of hemorrhage after vaginal delivery, tamponade of the uterus is effective in decreasing hemorrhage. But it is useful as a temporizing measure. But if a prompt response is not seen, preparation should be made for exploratory laparotomy. The mechanism of action of Bakri balloon is not yet well understood. It acts by application of the inward to outward hydrostatic pressure against the uterine wall, resulting in the tamponade effect, compression of the uterine blood vessels that decrease the blood flow and enable clotting. The indications again being the uterine atony resulting in acute postpartum hemorrhage. It can also be used in cesarean delivery with placenta previa, placenta accreta, adherent placenta, acute or recurrent inversion of the uterus, secondary postpartum hemorrhage. It can also be used as a temporary measure to decrease the hemorrhage while preparing for other definitive treatments such as surgical intervention of the acute postpartum hemorrhage. Contraindications being allergy to the device components, that is, it is made up of silicone. So when there is allergy to silicone, it is contraindicated. Heavy arterial bleeding, severe PPH requiring surgical exploration, suspected uterine rupture, infection of the vagina, cervix or uterus, congenital uterine anomaly, uterine distorting pathology, DIC, cervical cancer. Complications of Buckley balloon being uterine rupture. If overinflated, it can cause uterine rupture. The balloon might get prolapsed if underinflated. Endometritis when placed for more than 24 hours. Air embolism can also occur when inflated with air or carbon dioxide. There are few advantages over other balloon catheters like St. Stephen Blakemore catheter, Foley's catheter, or condom catheter. As Buckley balloon catheter is made up of silicone, which is advantageous in patients with latex allergy. The shape naturally conforms to the uterine cavity, and there is also lower risk of perforation, and it comes as a ready-to-use pre-sterilized pack. It has a large bore drainage channel compared to the other devices. There have been studies. There was one study showing minimal adverse effects on following menstrual and reproductive function, but it has not been proved yet. Pregnancy outcome was similar to those managed conservatively with uterotonic agents alone. There was one incidence of infarction of myometrium which led to hysterectomy, but later on it was found infarction was found to be due to prolonged hemorrhage. Obesity seemed to be a risk factor for failure of Buckley balloon. Late placement of Buckley balloon in persistent PPH is likely to be less successful. A study found that Buckley balloon and B-lane suture had similar success rates in uterine atony during cesarean section. The study added that Buckley balloon is less invasive and easier to learn, but more time-consuming and expensive compared to B-lane suture. So the technique of Buckley balloon tamponade. Prior to insertion, informed consent is taken, but when there is dire emergency or acute PPH, consent is not that mandatory. Anesthesia, regional or general anesthesia. In general anesthesia, in case of cesarean, severe PPH following cesarean delivery, monitoring and follow-up is required after insertion, and the maximum viewing time is 24 hours or less. It's kept only up to 24 hours. The technique is, I have a small video presentation of the technique of how to insert Buckley balloon. First of all, empty the bladder, inspection of the uterine cavity, cervix and vagina is cleansed with antiseptic solution, grasp the cervix with ring forceps. I will be presenting a small video on this. Hello. Hello.
Yes, madam, we can hear you.
Ma'am, the video or audio of the video is not.
Yes, you can comment.
This is the Buckley balloon with 2 ports with the balloon maximum capacity of 500 ml, and the 60 ml syringe is attached to the inflation port, and the 3-way cannula is attached to the inflation port, and the syringe is attached to the 3-way. Now we should inspect the uterine cavity and assess the volume of the uterus, and a balloon is inserted. A collapsed balloon is inserted into the uterine cavity through the cervix ahead of the internal os. And the saline, IV saline, we can use ringer lactate or sterile saline. And through the 3-way, the saline is withdrawn into the syringe. and then it is inserted into the uterine cavity to inflate the balloon.
The audio of the video is not playing, I think.
Yes, ma'am. The blood collection bag is attached to the.
Do you see any problem over there?
No, ma'am.
No.
The video itself is a bit moving slowly.
Therefore, all obstetric units should have the Buckley balloon tamponade and the protocol, intrauterine balloon tamponade in the PPH protocol. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sandhya, for this video. And now I ask the experts to comment on this.
I'll request Manik to share the number and the name of the gadget which she mentioned as an alternative to Buckley balloon.
Hello.
How, sir?
On Solapur Obstetric Gynec Academics, I already sent the video, account number, and price.
Great, sir. Great.
Thank you,
That
sir.
is
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That is typical of Manik.
That's true. That's true. Thank you, sir.
Before we ask him, he's already done it.
No, because what I have seen is Buckley balloon is good, but the cost is more. That's why we are not keeping. This, the LAV is, at that time I have taken for 2,800, I think. But I have brought 6 LAVs at that time for me, Baldava sir and Markandeya Rugnalaya. And we used it very well and it works well. That's why I have sent this on Solapur Obstetric Gynec Academics with the account. And that is a reusable.
Great. We'll go through it, sir. Definitely.
He said 3,200 for me. 3,200.
Oh.
Plus GS. Plus GS.
Guram sir, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
So how do you sterilize those ilavi? Like normal autoclave, wrap it with a cloth and autoclave it, or how?
You clean it first, thoroughly clean it, and then with any disinfectant, good disinfectant, either bacillocid. Clean it with bacillocid and keep it in a formalin chamber.
Thank you, sir.
And even the other thing that Pandikar's cannula, we have used first time at Solapur Pandikar cannula, and they also works well. We are having those cannulas. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, I request Chirag to present this e-memento to Dr. Sandhya. Sandhya, please accept token of appreciation from Solapur Society.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now the next case is the demonstration of usage of SR suction cannula. This is done by Dr. Shivani Patil. She is JR3 working in OBGY department of VM Medical College. Dr. Shivani, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So,
Jamma madam, can you unmute yourself? Can you mute yourself, Janma madam?
Like how? Next week, I start
Is my presentation visible, madam?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Shivani Patil. I am a third year junior resident from Dr.
Dr. Patil ma'am, your
Dr.
voice is
Shivani,
audible.
we can't hear you. Hello, Dr. Shivani, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Much clear.
Okay. Today I will be discussing about the usage of the SR suction cannula. Dr. Samartharam from Kerala, first he brought out the idea of usage of the suction cannulas. He published an article in IOSR journal in November 2014, and it stated as a vacuum retraction of the uterus for the management of the atonic postpartum hemorrhage. Initially, it was used for the atonic postpartum hemorrhage cases only, and the results published were shown a complete cessation of the bleeding, which was associated with the contraction and firm retraction of the uterus within 4 minutes after the initiation of the procedure, and the amount of the blood collected in the suction bottle ranged from 150 ml to 250 ml only. In market, today we have 5 different types of the SR suction cannulas. The first here, SR suction cannula, as we see this one. This is a suction cannula number 1, and it is extra large size. This is used mainly in case of a massive atonic PPH, and the cannula number 2 is a large size suction cannula which is used for a term pregnancy. And this short cannula is used in case of a LSS, and this cannula number 4 is also used in case of a LSS, that is mainly in case of the post LSS. And the cannula number 5 is mainly used if the cervix is undilated. So this suction cannula usage is mainly we select these suction cannulas depending upon if the pregnancy is term or not, that is depending upon the uterine size and depending upon the cervical dilatation. So in this image we can see that each cannula has got a uterine portion and a cervical portion and a vaginal portion. The uterine portion has got a large longitudinal holes, whereas the cervical portion has got small circular holes. This is mainly designed like this, mainly to prevent cervical soft tissue injury, while the vaginal portion doesn't have any holes, and this part here, a suction tube is attached. This SR suction cannulas are used for atonic PPH, and also this can be used prophylactically for the prevention of the atonic postpartum hemorrhage. This can be used in vaginal delivery and also in a LSCS. So cannula insertion after a vaginal delivery, after the delivery of the placenta, we are inserting this suction cannula. The anterior lip of the cervix is held with the sponge forceps, and then the suction cannula is inserted. This goes inside the uterine cavity, and be knowing before doing the procedure. Just after insertion of the cannula, make sure that it has reached the fundus and make sure that all the holes are inside the uterine cavity. Then we are going to apply a negative suction pressure through a suction machine. That is, we are applying 650 millimeters mercury of a pressure for about 10 minutes during the procedure. And subsequently, we apply the pressure for 10 minutes per hour for the next 3 hours. Or if there is any recurrence of the bleeding, then we can apply the suction pressure. Now, what not to do when we are using this? So, never try to remove or pull the cannula immediately after stopping the suction. And we should not use this in case of a traumatic PPH. Always make sure before using this suction cannula that the cause of the PPH is atonic, not a traumatic. So this mainly acts, as we all can see in this first figure, the suction cannula is inserted into the uterine cavity and the negative pressure is applied. In the second diagram, we can see that the cervical tissue has come, like it has sucked and come closer to the suction cannula, so that it further facilitates creation of the vacuum inside the uterine cavity. Now, we can see that this suction cannula has assisted the natural physiological process of the contraction and the retraction. This mainly works by creating a negative pressure inside the uterine cavity and stops the atonic bleeding. So, in our institute, we used SR suction cannula in two scenarios. First case, she was para 2 living 2, referred from outside, and she was delivered outside for a complete uterine inversion with a postpartum hemorrhage. Immediately, patient was shifted to operation theatre. Appropriate resuscitation was taken, and under general anesthesia, the uterus was reposited. But there was torrential hemorrhage, so we did use this SR suction cannula, and the outcome were fair good. In the second case, we used this prophylactically for during a LSCS. So I will be sharing the video of the usage of the SR suction cannula in the LSCS. This is the system of the SR suction cannula.
Dr. Shivani ma'am, if you can do a full screen.
Yes, sir.
You can just double click on the video.
This side of the section T. Meanwhile, the surgeon changes his gloves. All the folds are inside the section. And now, suction pressure of a wound now the question is where we can use this cannula and what is the use. So it is first of all, it is very cheap. So in a developing country like India, many hospitals can afford it very easily. Like it costs only 3,000 rupees initially, but compared to other tamponade effects like a Bakri balloon, it costs nearly 15,000 now. So, and it is also very effective. It very effectively reduces the blood loss also. And we doesn't need much expertise while using this suction cannula. We can teach the other healthcare staff in the posted in the PSC so that they can apply this if they get any case of the atonic BPH. So in this scenario, we can use. Thank you very much for giving me this platform to talk about SR suction cannula. I would like also to thank Dr. Pawar sir and Dr. Vikas Thengal sir for guiding me through this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shivani, for this video. Gurram sir, I want to ask whether this is the same cannula what you are talking about.
Is Gurram sir there on the panel?
Yeah, it is the same cannula. The principle is same.
Okay.
There are two persons. One is SR and second is Pandikar, Dr. Pandikar.
Okay.
But there is some quarrel going on between both of them about this is my patent and their patent, whatever it may be. But one thing is sure, whenever there is a mild PPI, if you pass this cannula through the cervix and keep the suction vacuum to that cannula and keep it for 4 hours. After getting that vacuum, the thing is, whenever there is a vacuum, the vessels which are there they are also blocked, and it requires some time to have a hemostasis in that vessels. So for that time, 4 to 6 hours, the vacuum should be continued, and then it really works well. I have tried at Dr. Baldava sir's case once at Cooperative Hospital, and literally we avoided any surgical intervention in that case.
Oh.
This is a very good new approach towards the treatment of atonic PPH and mild PPH, this cannula. There are various types. There are some small types for second trimester after abortion. There is a very small size, and then these big for multipara and for primi. There are some various things. There are horizontal holes, and at the end there is in the vagina there is no vacuum created. Only after cervix the vacuum is created. It's very good novel thing.
Oh.
I will show the instruments later on. I'm having those instruments. I will show the instruments, and also I will put the video.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I have second question that how much safe is use of this cannula in case of uterine inversion? Because
no, they have used for to continue that whatever replace the inversion to be kept in a normal position. For that they have used that cannula there.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Any other comment?
I have one more question. After 4 to 6 hours of vacuum created, how to remove this cannula?
Yeah. That's a very good question.
Because it can cause a trauma to the endometrium or the uterus.
Because this happened after 4 hours. When I asked our resident to remove that cannula, he said it's not removing. So on that day, I have video called them and asked them to show me. So you have to remove the suction. So first of all, the negative pressure goes, and then gently don't pull that. You tilt it 30 degree, 90 degree, 30 degree, 90 degree. It's not vertical. It should be horizontal, 30 degree, 90 degree, and slowly that will come out.
Thank you, sir, for that very good information, and thank you, Shivani. Please accept our e-memento. Chirag, will you please present this memento?
Yes.
Please accept this from our society.
Thank you.
So after having this wonderful discussion, wonderful case presentation and video presentation, now we are moving to the most awaited part of this clinical meeting, that is Pearls of Wisdom. We all know the importance of mentor, his teaching and guidance in our day-to-day life. Today, we are honored to have our beloved teacher and very expert gynecologist, Dr. Suman Sardesai Madam with us. Madam, we all are very much eager to hear you. Over to you, Madam.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Madam.
Yes, Madam. We can hear you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Archana, for nice words. But do you think we should continue with this?
Volume is too low. Volume is too low.
You can increase the volume, madam.
It's a full volume, more than this, I can do. What is to be done? Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Madam.
I'll take it closer. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So, actually, when Aboli asked me to give this pearls of wisdom, I was confused as to what to say.
Madam, you have to increase your volume. You have to speak little loud.
My volume, okay, now?
Yeah, you have to be little loud. Yeah, that's.
Can you hear me now? Well, okay. So
yes, madam.
When Aboli asked me to give these pearls of wisdom, I was really little confused as to what exactly they want from me. And then I said, what is wisdom? So wisdom means experience and knowledge together with the power of applying them critically and practically. So probably I was little apprehensive as to they want pearl of wisdom from a person who is not very actively involved in obstetric at the present. But however, whatever little wisdom I think I have, I would like to share with you. And it went back in my student days when I first got Dr. Mrs. Thakur, who was a teacher, a famous gynecologist from Dadar. He taught us that every woman in labor.
Can't hear you, madam.
What to do? I can't help it. कैसे करूँ?
Ma'am, जो
Keep your phone steady.
मॅम तुम्ही माईक वरती हात ठेवलाय का ते एकदा फक्त चेक करा, कारण का बऱ्याच वेळा आपण जेव्हा फोन पकडतो तेव्हा माईक वरती हात जातो ऑटोमॅटिकली.
खाली पकडलंय, आता ऐकू येतंय का?
हो मॅम, आता क्लिअर ऐकू येतंय.
क्लिअरली ऐकू येतंय?
हो मॅम.
खाली धरते आता, बरं.
हो, थोडासा जवळ पकडा आणि.
ओके.
येस मॅम.
Now, so every woman in labor is a potential candidate for PPH. Any woman, and you have seen just now with the sadhana, the first case, normal primary gravida all of a sudden turns into a bad shape and has PPH. So we should not say which patient will give me the trouble, and so every woman is a potential candidate for PPH. And as Swati, my resident, had said, that every labor room should be well prepared to tackle with this situation. And though we see that many women, patients are likely to have, but though we not very commonly see that every woman is having bleeding, very few of them will have. Why is it so that the patients turn bad in few cases? Because the nature has been very kind to these pregnant women. They have this 1500 cc extra volume of blood, which protects them from during even if they have little bleeding, they do not, no harm is done because they can withstand this because of extra volume. And that is why, but in some cases, there are certain conditions where they do not have this extra volume, like pregnancy-induced hypertension a small woman, a woman who is very a small woman will not have extra volume, and she's with little blood loss also she's likely to collapse. Similarly, patients with chronic renal disease also do not have this hypervolemia and are likely to have with little blood loss. And these patients with minimal blood loss, they will collapse, but rest of the patients usually withstand this blood loss in good way because they have the 1500 extra volume of blood which is given to them by nature. And besides that, sometimes what happens, we miss the history. That previous history is very, it was taken that we say previous history is very, very important. Taking history is very important because some of them have a tendency to bleed. I remember one, I can quote, remember an incident that when I was working in government hospital, I was taking a round in the labor room. And while taking round, we saw that there was a patient who had just delivered and she suddenly started bleeding. And naturally, I left the round and asked all the residents. We gathered around her cot and we started. Naturally, somebody started IV and etc. because it was a normal third gravida. And she could sense my anxiety that I was panicking because the was quite amount of bleeding. And I was surprised. तिने माझा हात पकडून तिने हात पकडला आणि म्हणाली की बाई मला दरवेळेला असं होतं. And this was something which was this was shocking for me because when we ask the patient, they say normal delivery. Vaginal delivery is normal for them, but we should particularly ask whether she had any bleedings, but so much so that requiring blood transfusion. And that's why this hello.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
You're hearing me, no?
Yes, ma'am.
That's how we think that we must ask them whether, now how to know that excess bleeding. If you ask them, did you have excess bleeding? They will say yes. They will say yes. But if the history of if history of blood transfusion, then we have to keep in mind or note down on the top of our ANC card that the patient history of PPH is there. And as we have seen that majority of the patients with PPH are that of atonic type of PPH. And when it comes to atonic PPH, what is most important is that golden hour. That patient should start within 1 hour. The resuscitation should start within 1 hour. So we have to take a quick decision as to what needs to be done. When we are doing a cesarean section, the abdomen is already open, but she has delivered vaginally. There's always, we have some apprehension whether to open her up now or wait for some time. And always the trickle is bad than the bout of bleeding. If there is bout of bleeding, everybody will rush and look at. But if there is a small trickle, we will keep on now, wait for some time, and it goes on. And that is why the atonic PPH, we have to be very careful. I was very happy that today we had so many gadgets, newer gadgets which are coming to help us in controlling that atonic PPH. And the best is that uterine tamponade. Now, somebody was saying that Bakri balloon is very costly, but remember, we have the equipments which are costing in lakhs. So about few thousand, I think I was told it is 3,000 to 5,000. So 3,000 to 5,000, it's not more. But just now that girl said it is 15,000. I am not aware as to how much it is. But Bakri balloon is, or at the most, if we are at the periphery and we don't have Bakri balloon, just packing the uterus before transferring is good enough to control the bleeding, and the patient can be stabilized by the time she reaches the tertiary center. So packing is very, very important. The tamponade is very, very important if the Bakri balloon. But recently we had one patient, Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
So recently, the patient was referred to Ashwini, and I was very happy to know that she was sent with Bakri balloon. It was somewhere patient was sent from Sangola, and I was very happy. Dr. Ranjit Kedkar introduced a Bakri balloon and then referred the patient to Ashwini Hospital, and patient had settled by the time she had come. So wonderful. These gadgets will be wonderful. Used or can be used to save the life of the women. And next comes the call for help. It's the very, very important that we must call somebody for help the moment we feel that the patient is required. One more thing is when we call for, the person is going to help. But remember, when we are dealing with such a patient, she's bleeding, the person who is dealing with the patient as a obstetrician is exhausted physically and mentally. And when somebody else comes, that person is fresh and he can help you to take the decision in a proper way. He can always be his mind is absolutely clear and he is not exhausted. So he will definitely help us in taking the decision what should be done, especially decision doing a laparotomy for PPH, because it is not easy to take the decision that patient has delivered and we have to take her. But of course, the golden hour should not be lost, and earlier the decision should be taken, and take help of your friends to take that decision. And nowadays we see many patients of coagulation failure and with thrombocytopenia. But one interesting thing we have to keep in mind that even if coagulation profile is not intact, we'll find this patient is not bleeding because the uterus is well retracted. The most important is the retraction of the uterus is extremely important. Even if the coagulation is not, unless she has laceration somewhere, she will not bleed. So retraction of the uterus is extremely important thing we should keep in mind. And the uterine tone must be maintained. We have such wonderful uterotonics today. And sometimes it is difficult to assess the correct exact blood loss. And remember, whatever blood loss you have assessed, it is almost the double of amount she has lost. So our assessment is always, it's underestimation. So it almost takes at twice she has lost. And initially when the patient, you may find that the blood pressure is quite normal. And then we say that patient is stable. No, it is the catecholamines which are being liberated may keep the blood pressure to normal. But it is the best way to assess is her pulse. The pulse is the tachycardia will definitely suggest, though the BP may be normal. Similarly, when patients of abruptio placenta, when she delivers, if the abruptio placenta has been because of preeclampsia, you find she might have had a very high blood pressure, but when she bleeds, her blood pressure is 120/80. Now it is many a time confused that the patient has got a normal BP. No, this BP is hypotension for her. Her initial BP might have been 160/110 or so. So this blood loss has caused her hypotension. This 120/80 is hypotension for us. So assessment of blood loss is extremely important, and we should not. And initially, even the first 2 days, the hemoglobin hematocrit also may look normal. But later, after 2 days, the hemoglobin fall can be seen. Then next, what I would like to share with you is as I said, the atony is the main part. Traumatic PPH is also seen, but atony is the most, because even with coagulation failure, if the uterine tone is maintained, the bleeding will not occur. So in the similar manner, with that came the newer concept, not newer concept in the sense, the active management of third stage of labor. The active management of third stage of labor was introduced by WHO, where the active management means starting with as soon as the patient delivers, 10 to 20 units of Pitocin drip is started at the rate of 10 to 20 cc per minute, and after that, once the uterus retracts, the drip rate is slowed down to 1 to 2 cc per minute. This is how the rate. Second thing, clamp the cord before the pulsation stop. And the third thing what has been is the patient, the placenta is delivered by cord traction before separation. Now I have my own reservation about this. Now it's okay, you give give either oxytocin, whether you give Pitocin or Methergine does not matter, oxytocin or Methergine does not matter. You clamp the cord, it does not matter. But whether are we justified in delivering that placenta before the separation of the, because this is one which can, that's why I was asking Swati whether, because many of you are giving oxytocin in higher doses and calling it active management of labor, but the active management means delivering the placenta also immediately with control cord traction before the signs of separation. So I went through the literature, the Cochrane data, and I found that as far as the oxytocin and ergometrin, there's no, they said you can give anything, both are good. Ergometrin, only you have to see that you don't give ergometrin in patients of hypertension. Oxytocin can be given with safely, but both drugs are very safe and can be given. As far as the active management which we were promoting, or which is being promoted by many of us, they have now the recent 2019 Cochrane data says that it has not much of results are uncertain, and they are not very much initially as it was introduced that this active management of third stage should be done to prevent PPH, but now they are saying that the studies over years, which has been 2019 Cochrane says that in fact what they are suggesting, you should give a choice to the patient whether she would like to have this active management or not. And if she gives choice, yes, then only it should be done. That itself suggests that it should not be used as a blanket method for prevention of atonic postpartum hemorrhage. So this is what small the things which I wanted to share, and I'm sure my senior colleagues and junior colleagues can add to this pulse. Okay.
Thank you, madam, for those enlightening words. Very informative and definitely going to help us in our day-to-day practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam, for having. We are all so much pleased to have you over here in this clinical meeting.
Now, Dr. Dapet is there online.
Yeah, as Manu said, we are missing the coffee from the coffee club.
Yeah.
It is just like we are in the VMMC CME room, only thing is strong coffee is not there.
Okay. Now listen, Dr. Dabde is a strong advocate of this management. Does he mean
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
That delivery of the placenta before separation and separation, do you follow this?
Ma'am, we are again not able to hear you properly. So,
you are not audible, madam.
ma'am, it was better when you were giving the speech.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Dabde, I want to know whether you are of the opinion that it should be done.
No, madam, I have not gone through this Cochrane data, but till that submission of Cochrane data was done, I would really still say that we all should be doing active management of third stage of labor. But maybe, as you said, after this Cochrane data has revealed that it doesn't have much advantage, and as you said, the choice should be given to the patient whether they want this active management or not. That's really enlightening.
Because giving pitocin, okay, instead of ergometrin, you want to give pitocin, no problem. Because the drugs are equally good. It's not bad, neither that is good. Both are equally good. Some contraindications.
Yes, sir.
Before separation, they also have a patient to be given a choice if they are doing for it.
Hello. Hello, we can't hear you, madam.
Over. I have finished.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We are just blessed to have you all here.
Thank you.
Archana, you can continue.
Yeah, thank you, madam, and thank you all the experts and senior members for their active participation. Now I request our president, Aboli madam, to present the memento to Sardesai madam. Chirag, will you please put the slide of memento?
Kindly accept the memento, madam.
Madam, accept this as a token of our love and gratitude, and please keep on showering your blessings as always. Thank you very much. So now we are towards the end, but before that, I have one announcement. We will be having webinar on COVID-19 updates 2021 on this Sunday, that is 9th May at 10:30 a.m. in the morning. So please block your date. This webinar is in association with Surat Society. So, and the link will be shared on our WhatsApp group. Now I request Sudeep to propose the vote of thanks.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for everyone participating in this clinical meeting and sharing your precious time. And I want to thank Mr. Chirag from DigiShield, and also all our seniors and Dr. Sardesai madam, the sir, Gurram sir, and everyone for this being on the panel and the participant of this clinical meetings, and look forward for the next CME on Sunday. Thank you all.
I request all the participants, please switch on your camera so that I can take a nice photograph of all of us. Prajakta, Dabde sir, please.
I'm on.
No, sir, you are not seen. We can't see you, sir.
Take the gallery so that we can see him.
No, I can see his name, but I can't see him.
Invisible Raju.
Give me a moment. I'll just transfer him to panelist level so that he'll be able to share his screen or the video camera.
Yeah.
Dr. Sandhya ma'am is missing. Dr. Sandesh sir, we are not able to see you. Yes, sir.
Yes, now I can.
Dr. Suman ma'am, Sardesai ma'am.
Madhuri ma'am, where she is from?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
One information.
Thank you
for the
everyone.
wonderful
We
talk.
had a very nice session.
Hello.
Sandesh.
Yeah.
See, in Barin Hospital, there we have something called as a kit is available. Suppose nothing works and the patient keeps on bleeding. So then the issue comes in how much blood to transfuse. So if you are giving less than 10 bottles of blood, the mortality is 1%. But if the transfusion increases more than 10 bottles, the mortality goes to 40%. So we have to be very, very careful. And this concept is called as massive transfusion protocol, that is MTP in PPH. So there the concept has to be 1:1:1, that is 4 PRPs to 4 FFPs to 4 platelets. And if you give this much amount of blood, the mortality is very, very reduced rather than giving only RBC or platelet, the red blood cell concentrates. So what they have there is a package is always kept ready where you have all these 4 bottles, all these 3 types of blood, the PRP, the platelets and FFP. And we could actually tie up with some blood banks as a society and always ask them to keep this ready. And whichever hospital uses it and saves life should later on replace it, and they can actually promote their staff to give that much blood and keep it replenished. So if we have this kit in Sholapur, whoever needs this blood, suppose it's a obstetric hysterectomy and she doesn't have massive hemorrhage, in those cases we should have this available always, and we will promise them that whoever uses it will replenish it, or the society will always help them to replenish it.
Very, very good, Sandesh. Very good. In fact, I will say, if Sandesh, you please send me all the details, I will see to that at Markandeya Blood Bank.
Yes.
I will keep this, and for any obstetricians, we will provide.
Yes.
I will do that. Definitely.
Because even if we give these 12 bottles, the mortality will be very less rather than giving 10 red concentrate.
Very nice information, Sandesh, and very well expressed gesture from the part of Manik Guram, as usual. Is ready to help anytime, anywhere, and instantly.
No, because we that is in my I can keep there for the obstetricians. I know that now 24-hour blood bank is available at Rugnalaya only, and we are using that. So it is better to use for all of us.
Yes, definitely.
Can I just add with everybody's permission?
Yes.
Yeah. Because see, whenever we encounter any patient, we treat, as Dr. Kumthekar says, we treat each patient as potential litigator, and keeping that in mind, we should keep our case papers properly written and ready. So I consider every patient coming in labor as a potential bleeder. You do not know which patient is going to land into postpartum hemorrhage. So all the patients, as a policy matter, what we do here is whenever we have any para, any gravida whosoever comes, irrespective of her parity or gravity, whenever she comes in labor, we keep 2 FFPs and 2 PCs ready in the blood bank. This can be objected by many people, that why do you need to keep the blood ready for a patient who has 12 grams of hemoglobin registered with you and she is low? But then I had discussion with it was even put on the stage by the people who are running these blood banks. This is how the blood bank should also survive. So it is 2 things. Our patient will also survive and the blood banks will also survive. Thank you.
Ma'am, from attendees, Dr. Sujata Umbraje would like to speak something. She has raised the hand. Should I allow her to speak?
Yes. Yes, you can allow.
I have allowed her to speak. Ma'am, Dr. Sujata Umbraje, ma'am, are you there? No, she is not here.
Dr. Sujata, madam, are you there? Sujata, madam, unmute yourself and start the video if you are there.
I think probably by mistake she must have raised the hand, or she wanted to say bye to us, and that's why she raised her hand.
Okay, we can continue.
Very nice interpretation. Aboli, congratulations. Very nicely conducted the meeting.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. You were the motivator and inspirator. You have started the sessions very nicely.
मोठेपणा आहे तुला सगळ्यांना क्रेडिट द्यायची सवय आहे. You are really great. Okay, bye.
Okay, we are. Okay, shall we conclude the session?
So we all raise the hand.
All raise the hands, and we will.
Sir, I am also raising hand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We will have a grand party after the COVID is over. Everyone might be missing the dinner.
No. First, Kiran will host the party, and then Aboli, it is your turn. Don't be in a hurry.
Sure, sir, sure. I am ready, sir.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Enjoy the evening.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Aboli, Archana, Prajakta, and team for wonderful first clinical meeting.
Yes. We are also all very happy to have all of you with us. And there were many attendees too.
Yeah, very good attendance.
Yeah. Okay, shall we conclude the session and keep some time, and everyone will have such a session in the next clinical meeting also. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm just ending the session here, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to the whole team of DigiShield. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.